I want to thank you for taking the time to watch my video. My name is Billy Taylor. I've been a high school coach for about 20 years and an educator for about the same length of time. 12 years of that was spent as a head coach. I've also spent a lot of time running my own tutoring company. But my passion is young people and giving them every opportunity to succeed. And so I just retired from the field in 2018, but I got an opportunity to work with an outfit called the Center for Teaching Effectiveness and Time to Teach that just absolutely astounded me and thrilled me, because it addresses a primary issue that we have in our classrooms: lost instructional time. And why do we lose instructional time? Because we spend too much time disciplining students and less time giving instruction. If you're in a high school classroom, you got about 45 minutes to execute your lesson plan for that day. You're spending 30 minutes of instruction time, 15 minutes of discipline time. That means you're losing a third of your lesson plan each and every day. And that's an issue that we want to address. The other thing that we want to address is how to value each and every student that you have and eliminate those low-level behavior issues that are causing you to lose that time. And thirdly, the final thing that I want to talk to you about is just real briefly is teacher retention. Because of the volatile environment in the classroom, we are losing in this country in the first 5 years half of the teachers that start out. They don't make it to 5 years. In fact, the average amount of time teachers teach is about 14 years. And boy, what that's telling me is the teachers that stick and stay are there for 25, 30 years, and these other ones are bombing out early. And we want to address that issue as quickly as we possibly can. So Time to Teach, as I said, is a program that's developed by the Center for Teaching Effectiveness that is run by a gentleman by the name of Rick Dahlgren. Rick is the writer of some very influential books that have been used on classroom management. The one that got me is this little yellow book right here, Time to Teach: Encouragement, Empowerment, and Excellence in Every Classroom. He's written on unconditional positive regard, which is something that we deal with. Teach twos. He's got lesson plans in there for that, and then our overall manual that we use when we come in to do professional development. Now, when we do a professional development at your school, what are we going to address? Well, these 5 things that we are going to address: self-control, classroom environment, UPR, or unconditional positive regard, teach twos, and the thing that we call refocus. Now, self-control. Why self-control? When you're challenged, what's your natural reaction? Your natural reaction is to fight back. And in the classroom, when a student challenges a teacher, it's not just that one student, it's 29 other kids waiting to see how you're going to respond. Calm is contagious. If you stay calm, the rest of the class will stay calm, and you can diffuse the situation and get back to instruction. But if you react, if you take the bait, if you argue back and forth and start to do what we call climb the ladder with that student, you've lost already. You're going to lose some. I'm guaranteeing you that. You will lose some. But the great thing about it is about 5 minutes later, you're going to get another shot at it. So that's a good thing to know. But self-control, you have to have the self-control to take that first punch, not respond negatively, but respond positively. We talk about that in coaching and games, where that first 5 minutes, they're going to give you everything they got. If you respond negatively to that, you're going to give them control of the game. So you don't want to do that. Second thing we want to talk about is classroom environment. In sports, we call it having the right uniform. If you look good, you play good, type of thing. And it's kind of similar in the classroom environment. How you set up your classroom is going to dictate to a great degree the focus of your students and how many things are going to distract them, and keeping you as the central focus and what you're working on as the central focus in that classroom, and not people walking by in the hall, not a lot of crazy things on the bulletin board, that kind of thing. But the focus is going to be on you and on the instruction that's taking place. So how are we going to set up that classroom? Normally we set it up where we got rows 5 across, 4 deep or 5 deep. You know, usually unless you have a seating plan, usually the knuckleheads sit all the way back in the back. Those are the guys that are going to cause the problem or go to sleep. So what you got to do is set that classroom up in such a way as they're involved and they cannot not be involved. And that's what classroom environment will do. We'll work on that. We'll talk about lighting. We'll talk about colors and things that, you know, that if usually we don't have control over the color of our room, but we have control over what we put on the walls. And so how those colors are going to affect your students and their situation. Third thing is, I put it in the center because I think it's the crux. It's the part that you absolutely have to get a hold of as a teacher, as an instructor, because one of the reasons why I call my presentation Changing Classrooms to a Championship Culture is because teams and students, they all have to get on board. They all have to buy in to what you're doing in that classroom or on that field. Coaches will tell you this all the time. If they got 15 guys on a basketball team and 12 of them buy in and 3 of them don't, you got a problem. You're going to have a problem. If you got 30 students in your classroom and 20 of them buy in and 10 of them don't, you're going to have problems. And so this third thing that we talk about, UPR, or unconditional positive regard, is something that I believe every teacher needs to begin to use as soon as possible to bring their kids in, get them focused, and let them know that they're valuable. I mean, a big reason why kids act out in class is they don't feel valuable. They don't feel valued. You got to do that. You do that by having unconditional contact with these kids, not based on what their last grade was or how they did on this quiz or what they did yesterday in the classroom. It could be based, how was your weekend? That's an unconditional contact, Did you see the last episode of Game of Thrones? What'd you think? Letting them know you value their opinion. Yeah, I watched that, I didn't think that much of. Those types of things, that lets them know that, you're the same, you're a person like them, and you like and dislike things the same way as they do. Just a quick aside on talking about unconditional positive regard. As a coach, I used to have times when practice went off the rails. 15 minutes in, drills are going south, balls are going all over everywhere. Kids are goofing off and not focusing on what they're supposed to be doing. When I saw that, what I would do is I'd stop practice, call everybody in, and we had a thing called story time. What was story time? That was where myself or one of the assistant coaches would tell a story about ourselves. Maybe it would be back in our playing days or when we were in college or another job I had, whatever. Or maybe something that happened the day before in the grocery store that was funny or whatnot. But we'd have story time. The kids would focus on that for about 3 to 5 minutes. Then we go back out there and all of a sudden, everybody's focused, everybody's relaxed, and right into what we're supposed to be doing. These are kinds of things that you can do as a teacher. You need to let your students know that you're a human being, that you're real, that you have problems the same way they have problems. Don't be afraid of that. Invite that, enjoy that, and let them get to know you the same way you're getting to know them. That's why I think this is so important right here. This next one is the thing called teach-tos. What are teach-tos? Well, teach-tos are based on our expectations. Every teacher sets expectations. And all of our expectations are set with the assumption that all kids come to school ready to learn, ready, knowing how to behave in English class, knowing how to behave in math, knowing the right time to take their test paper up and put it on the teacher's desk. You can't assume that. That's an assumption that we just simply have to get away from. And so when we set expectations, what you as a teacher and as an inspiring leader have to do, you have to model the behavior that you want to see. You also want to model the negative behavior. You don't want the kids to do it, but you want to show them what the wrong way is, as well as showing them what the right is. And Teach Twos, and that's something, like I said before, we've got a book that we use. It's got 100 lesson plans on Teach Twos on how you can instruct kids in the proper way to do things, in the proper way to meet expectations. And then the final thing, this is one that when we do our professional development, everybody wants to do this right away. It's called refocus. And it's a way to get students to self-correct. And boy, wouldn't every teacher love to have every student self-correct. You know, as a coach, you would always, you have a set of discipline, but at the bottom line is if the kids aren't accountable to one another on a team, you're going to have problems. If your catcher is afraid to walk out to the mound and tell the pitcher, you're blowing it, dude, get your focus back together, relax for a second, and just throw me the pitch I'm asking for. I mean, if he's afraid to do that, you got a problem. I mean, the coach can't always do all of that. You can't always do that. And so we would love to have our kids, every one of them, refocus and self-correct. Well, this is the way that we do that, but in order to do it, you're going to have 2 teachers working as a team, or you're going to have the entire school involved. And so we save that for the end because we want all this other part of the situation, the buy-in, to come in earlier, and then we go into the refocus. And refocus is just a situation where we're going to take a student, time out, get them away from the situation, let them think about what they've done, come back, tell me what the problem was, how are you going to correct it? Great, let's go back to instruction. But we want to do that at the end because it's very important to have a partner or have the entire school involved with that. So these are the 5 areas that we address. And one of the great parts about having these professional development situations is that we get the teaching staff into a single room and allow them to address the issues that they haven't addressed with you as the administrator or the principal. They haven't come to you and talked about what they're doing about the low-level behavior issues that are going on in the class, or kids challenging them, or repeated requests to get students to do what they want them to do. They haven't come to you and sat down to correct that. And that's the reason why you're losing half of your young teachers, by the way. And so what we want to do is simply give you the opportunity to give me a call and have me come in and do a professional development. You're asking yourself right now, why should I do that? Tell you why, because on average, once we do professional development in a school, 70 to 90% reduction. We see a 70 to 90% reduction in referrals almost immediately. Almost immediately. You know, we had one school where they had a principal and 4 vice principals, and they had somewhere in the neighborhood of like 10,000 student referrals during the course of the year. They reduced that by 90%. The next year they only had 1,000. They actually had to they had to send a couple of the vice principals back to the classroom as teachers because they didn't need them anymore, because they had adjusted their classroom management techniques and styles across the school and gotten a tremendous response from it. So that's the basic reason why you want to give me a call. So at the end of this presentation, you'll see a screen that has my name, my phone number, my email address. You can send me an email. You can give me a call. I'd love to come sit down with you. I'm excited about having that opportunity. And let's talk about what we can do to get your teachers more instructional time and give them more time to teach. Thank you.